Welcome to the Be Empowered podcast with your host, Graham Hopkins. My goal is to help you regain your power by bridging the gap between who you think you are right now and who you really are. In simple language, that is like making your childhood dreams come true. This is for those who want to make an impact in their lives but don't know how to get there. Be ensured, when you know and feel connected to your spiritual mind, you master your world.
Okay, so Robyn, if you say that we're one with God and there's no separation, then what is it that creates the separation in the world?
Now, this will be moving forward to the way of mastery here, where Joshua shares on the kind of the breakdown of this is where way of mastery, and you can see that.
So, the way of mastery is another book again, I take it.
This is another book that I facilitated a group on the way of mastery today. Yeah. So going back to that question, and I'm gonna ask you to repeat the question again. We're gonna point to something in the way of mastery.
Well, my question is, you say that we are not separate from God, that we're all one, and yet we see so much division in the world, and there's so much separation. What causes that?
I would add the word in there, seeming. There is seeming separation. It seems to be separation. So yeah, Joshua speaks to this in the way of mastery, the unfolding of God extending self to know thyself. That's how he refers to it in the way of mastery. So we, as at one with God, extended self to know thyself. So the whole dream, the seeming idea of separation is a tool, T-O-O-L, tool, to assist God in knowing self, to assist our self, our true self, our real self, in knowing self, so that we forgot. We played this role of forgetting who we are so that we can remember who we are and know self more fully, more completely, more deep, ever deeper, just really knowing it. And the feeling that keeps coming back to me is God knowing thyself. That's this whole. And so it's not something that is against us. It's not something that we need to battle against, but it's something that we are required to embrace. To remember who we truly are is to embrace everything, every idea, every thought, all of it is to allow everything to be as it is and to embrace. Because the idea of separation tends to, if we believe in the idea of separation, then in every moment, if I look at someone and believe they've just attacked me, and so I attack them back, what I just do in attacking them back is I'm pushing myself away from myself. And so the idea of this whole of sleeping and awakening is that we can now look at our brother or sister who seemingly attacked me, and that now I can see that myself there in my brother and realize that if I attack, I'm pushing myself away. If I embrace, and as you said before, unconditionally love my brother, then the sister, then I am, when I'm embracing, then I'm welcoming myself back to self. And so the ego thought system, the thought system of separation will tell me someone outside myself has sinned and now they've done wrong, so now they must be blamed and scolded. And so when I do that, when I attack, it feels horrible doesn't it? That's that feeling of separation. It feels horrible. But when we forgive and embrace and allow our brother to be who they are, and we realize that that attack, the seeming attack, was not about us. It was not anything that could ever harm us. It was just a confused moment of my brother or my sister. It was a moment of confusion where they forgot who they were. They don't know they're the Son of God. They don't know that they're that truth. So now it's up to me in this moment, because they forgot who they are, and that's myself. That's a mirror of myself, forgetting who I am in that moment. Now I can embrace. I get to embrace them and remind them who they are and not judge them as a sinner. But forgive. Forgiveness is, we know that forgiveness is such a beautiful feeling and can only really occur from an open heart. And that open heart is what embraces our brother.
So, Robyn, what would you say to somebody who has a concept of God that God is a judgmental God, and they tend to blame God for all the circumstances that they find themselves in?
I would just say they're confused. They've forgotten who they are. They don't know who they are. And when, because we can also get confused with wanting to get to know a God, because we can see that a God's outside of ourselves, but there's nobody outside of us. There's no God separate. Our source creator we're one. We're so one with our creator. We are right here, fully in a full presence with our creator as one. So if we see God as something that is outside of us, something that we could say, why didn't God take care of this? How could God cause this? Then we're seeing that we're believing in separation. So then we're pushing ourselves away again. What we see with, it's kind of like, I guess, it can be kind of a touchy subject with, for me, it feels like that the whole awakening process is all about remembering self, knowing self. And then we come to realize that we are the powerful source at one with our creator. That it doesn't feel like on my journey that it's a getting to God or a getting to know God. To me, it feels like it's more about getting to know self, remembering self. And in that remembrance, we remember that we are one with God. Remember, we are the knowledge of God. We are the power of God. But I feel like that the point of focus is best placed on remembering self and really wanting to know who we are. Who am I? And in that, we will get to remember God. Because in the way of mastery, again, Joshua, many times he points, especially toward the end of the way of mastery, he calls us God. We are so at one with God. We're created in the exact image. So when we if the term God feels like it's a disconnecting term, if it doesn't feel good, that word, I would just leave that alone. And I would go back into our own heart center and just get to know self. Because that's what this journey truly is, getting to remember self.
So do you think that separation is caused when we look outside of ourselves to fill our needs instead of inside?
Yeah. When we believe that anything outside of us can fulfill us or make us happy, when anything outside of us should change, or we need to fix it, then we're in the mind of separation. We're believing in separateness, and we will, no doubt, seemingly feel pain and suffering. Because in that moment of believing in whenever we believe in separation, we're pushing self away, and we're in a miscreating endeavor in a sense that we're believing in pain and suffering. So in our belief in pain and suffering, we seem to actually experience pain and suffering. But it's the belief in it. In the way of mastery, Joshua speaks to, he tells us that we travel through belief. we begin, before we kind of get on the spiritual journey, we have a belief in separation. We have a belief in how things have got to be fixed, things have got to be changed. We give meaning to everything, judgment. So we believe in the ego. We believe in the separate self, right? We believe in fear. And so in the way of mastery, Joshua speaks to that. We start with that belief, and we're very much in a confused state at that point and very much sleeping. And then we move from that to a belief in awakening, a belief in love, a belief in the light, a belief in spirit, our souls. So we begin to believe in love. We begin to believe there's something better. There's a better way. There's something else here that's going to give me happiness. Our belief shifts. So we shift from a belief of separation to a belief of love, a belief of truth, a belief of the real world. And then from that belief, right, because that is all still part of the dream world, all that belief, the belief in the ego and the belief in Holy Spirit, the belief in awakening self, that's still all part of the dream world. But we shift from the belief in the ego to the belief in love and truth. And from that belief, we fall into knowledge. It's not something we can grasp at. It's not something we can grab. It's not something we can find. We fall into that because now we're pointing toward truth. We're pointing toward God. We're pointing toward our true self. So now we're pointing toward that. We've turned back into our heart center. Our hearts are opening, and now we're dropping into the knowledge and the remembrance, because it's just remembrance. We're not actually grabbing anything we never had. We always were the perfect love and light of truth. We always have been that. We're just remembering. But that belief is helpful on the journey to switch over to the belief from ego to love. And then we fall. We don't make that shift, but we fall into the knowledge, remembrance.
So, Robyn, you're doing weekly studies. You're teaching people, obviously, the teachings of the Course of Love and the Way of Mastery. So, can you just define these two books a little bit more?
Yeah, this is the other book that I was speaking about earlier. This is The Course of Love. You can kind of see that book. It's The Course of Love. For 4 years, I facilitated a group on A Course in Miracles, which actually I wrote this book, Forgiveness is the Home of Miracles. And that was this is about my journey through the workbook of A Course in Miracles. So I facilitated a group on A Course in Miracles for 4 years. I believe I studied the course for about 6 or 7 years. And then about 6 months ago, I was guided to change my Course in Miracles group over to A Course of Love group. A Course of Love. This was also channeled by Jeshua. It was received via Mary Quran. So the message is from Jeshua, from Jesus, as well as A Course in Miracles and The Way of Mastery. The 3 books are all from Jeshua, Jesus. And A Course of Love was given, channeled in December 1998 was when it originally was, the message was given. That's when it began. And I believe that she channeled the books over a period of 3 years. And there's a trilogy. And let's see, the second one is called, I believe, The Dialogues of A Course of Love. And the third one is The Treatises of A Course of Love. So she channeled those over a period of 3 years, beginning in 98. And the first one is just A Course of Love. That's the one we're going through right now. We're reading through this in our group. So we have that group on Thursdays at 1 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, we have a group on The Way of Mastery. And so they're the groups that I'm facilitating now.
What's the main difference between those two books?
Jeshua tells us at the beginning of A Course of Love that he tells us that A Course in Miracles is kind of for the head for the mind, for the undoing of the ego. It's kind of removing the blockages to love's presence, as you had mentioned earlier, A Course in Miracles. Then Jeshua tells us that the Course of Love is dropping down kind of from the head center, from that undoing, dropping down into the heart center. So Course of Love is for the heart, where A Course in Miracles is more for the mind work, the undoing of the ego. So A Course of Love, yeah, it's really beautiful. There's no lessons in A Course of Love. Out of the 3 books, it's the only one that doesn't have lessons. And so it's just reading. It's interesting because as I was working with A Course in Miracles a number of years ago, now reading A Course of Love, many of these messages in A Course of Love, I was given from Holy Spirit. Because I would pick up, as I was saying, I would always read A Course in Miracles with the Holy Spirit. Every time I picked it up, I would not try and intellectually understand A Course in Miracles, but I would always drop into my heart center and listen to the loving guidance within, the voice of love, and always read it. I've learned that with any of these books. Some people may say, I've heard some folks say there can be contradictions between any of these books. When we're reading with the Holy Spirit, when we're reading with the voice of love, listening to love as we read and really feeling into it, into our heart center, there's no contradiction. They definitely are in alignment, and there's just kind of some shifting that occurs as we're dropping deeper and deeper, and as our heart is opening wider and wider.
I wonder if that book, The Course of Love, doesn't have lessons because you can't define unconditional love. It just is.
Maybe, could be. It's definitely a course for the heart. Definitely, you can feel the heart really just expanding and enjoying the ride. Yeah, it's definitely a book for unconditional love, and we really, to really be able to embrace this, it does feel that we've really must have spent some time in the undoing of the ego and spending time practicing forgiveness and embracing self and inviting self back to self.
Robyn, do you find there's a shift going on that a lot more people are learning to connect with their own truth?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting. I've only been a Facebook person for the last couple of years, but I mean, it's amazing how many people just continually we're connecting via methods like that, like Facebook, LinkedIn, places where we're all coming together, and there's so many like-minded. For me, I don't know, I mean, as our journey unfolds, we tend to, be drawn to more like-minded people. And I've noticed my journey shifting just in incredible amounts, especially just in the last year or so. There's kind of like I would call it a sisterhood of, there's a few blokes, as we say in Oz, a few blokes that are kind of drawn into this circle too, but there's on Oahu, there's kind of a circle of women and a few blokes that are coming together, and there's a strong sharing, a real open, strong sharing, a real family feeling. It feels like, a true family, a really, my family is in Australia, and, here on Oahu, I don't have any, blood-related family, but I really feel that I have family here as well. It just seems like that there's just this joining, just an absolute joining, and it's getting stronger and stronger. And I notice that in many aspects, not just here for myself on Oahu, but even in connections on the computer. The Facebook isn't it a miracle, bringing so many of us together and just enjoying. It's wonderful.
So, Robyn, you've obviously been on this journey of learning to connect with your true self for some time. If there's somebody in the audience listening to this today, what would you say is the greatest key that you've picked up that you would give them to help them to begin this journey?
When I began facilitating the Course in Miracles group, which is at the Unity Church here on Wynwood. If anyone comes to our here, come and join us. A Course of Love, Wave Mastery, and we also, Course in Miracles is now facilitated by Alan Lamoe here on Wednesdays. So we have all those groups. But I would say the biggest message that I received when I began facilitating the Course in Miracles group 4 years ago, I would ask Holy Spirit, or our higher self within, I would ask, what message do you want me to give the people? What message would you give the people through me? What is the message? And I continually got the same message over and over, and I have shared it hundreds of times, if not thousands of times over the years. Awareness is key. That's what I was continually given. Awareness is key. Awareness is key. And even today, on my journey, that is something Joshua teaches in the Way of Mastery. He gives us an exercise to set the clock for 10 minutes in the hour where we kind of take a step back from being caught up as a separate self. We take a step back and we simply rest in awareness. And we even tell ourselves, well, I am aware of the picture. I am aware of the flower. I'm aware of the hand moving to pick up the cup. I am aware. So and he tells us to, rather than saying my hand or my body, he tells us to say the hand, the body, so we're not identifying that as that separate self, but and just becoming aware throughout the day. Early on in my journey, I remember asking Holy Spirit, I choose to be aware today. I want to be aware. I want to be aware when I'm stuck in my head and stuck in the thoughts of separation. I want to be aware. And as I would ask that, I noticed that Holy Spirit would, the guidance, love would come in and remind me that you're caught in the story right now. And I become aware and go, and then practice forgiveness. So, how can we practice forgiveness if we're not aware? So awareness, I would say that is truly the key. And as well as that, listening to our best friend within, knowing that we have this guidance the whole way that is our true self. And it's powerful and it's incredible, and that guidance knows everything that is unfolding at all times. It knows when you will exit the dream state. It knows everything. So that guidance. Yeah.
So Robyn, as we wind this up, can we do a little exercise and apply everything that we've talked about today? So what I'm suggesting is, can you kind of step back from this discussion? Can you become aware? Can you center down and ask the Spirit, what is it that the Spirit would say to the people out there listening today who maybe are a bit skeptical about what we're talking about?
Practice turning within to the heart center and asking yourself, is my heart open? And you will know in your heart, love will speak through you. You will know how open your heart is. And if you truly want to taste love, true love, and if you truly want to taste happiness, true happiness, that comes from having an open heart. and learning to embrace the world, embracing self, inviting self back to self, but it really turning in and asking yourself, how open is my heart? And then just starting there. And because when we become the witness of how closed over our heart is, we also become the witness that it doesn't feel very good to have a closed heart. And if you truly want to be happy, if you truly want to taste peace, love, and happiness, it all comes from having an open heart.
Well, thank you so much for those words of wisdom. And
thank you, my guidance.
Yeah. Robyn, I'd just really like to thank you for your contribution to this conversation of what it's like to feel empowered. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling more empowered just talking to you.
I'm feeling more empowered sharing here with you too. This joining, coming together and joining with the presence of love and letting love guide us is so empowering, isn't it? So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for listening to guidance and sharing this with everyone. Thank you.
What most people don't know is that we're probably on the two extremities of the planet. I'm in the Greek islands and Robyn's in Honolulu. And I don't think we could be further apart, but we're still one, Robyn.
Right, still joining in oneness. Yet we're both from Australia too.
Yeah.
Originally.
So
yeah.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening in and joining us in being one. This is the Be Empowered Show. I'm your host, Graham Hopkins. And I would just like to ask the listeners to do a favour for me. If they could go onto iTunes and leave a review. If this has touched your heart or you resonate with this message in any way, then the more reviews we get on iTunes, the greater visibility this show will have and reach more people. If you'd like to hear more about the concepts that Robyn and I have been I take it, Robyn, that your book is on Amazon?
Yes, it is on Amazon. Uh-huh.
And that's called Forgiveness is the Home of Miracles. Or you can go to Amazon and purchase my book, which is called The Manifesto of the Inspirational Mind. Or on my website, www.beempoweredgroup.com, there's a free download there. And that one's called Knowing Your True Value and Worth. And I think Robyn would agree with me that knowing our true value and worth is probably the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, Robyn, once again, thank you very much. On behalf of Robyn and myself, we'd like to give you the listeners all the blessings to a wonderful future of peace and abundance. Have a great day. Thank you, Robyn.
Thank you, Graham.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Be Empowered podcast. For more on regaining your power by bridging that gap between who you think you are right now and who you really are, go to www.beempoweredgroup.com and enter your name and email address to receive a free ebook and get notified of any upcoming podcasts. Remember, when you know and feel connected to your spiritual mind, you master your world. Changing your energy transforms your life.